Yeah, we're totally fine. And through the back here, I'm going to use this quick connector. It's very, very... Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, I need to put a little bit of emphasis on some safety. So this is a carbon monoxide and propane gas alarm. I'm going to be installing this in the van today, hardwiring it as it is not a battery operated unit because my carbon monoxide / smoke detector started going a little bit wonky on a camping trip and it was beeping very loud. It drove Boomer insane. It was hurting his ears very, very loud. So that used to be mounted up on the ceiling, if you guys remember that. That has since ended its life. I needed to silence it in a hurry because it was driving Boomer insane. So it is not here anymore. So I have this unique item. This is from a company called Tedetto. Yeah, let's dive into this and take a look. All right, guys, so there you guys can see the name Tedetto. It is a carbon monoxide and propane gas alarm. There is the model. Let's dive into this really quick just to see what's inside of the box here. We have a bunch of literature, so a manual. We've got a bunch of screws and double-sided tape and a little coupler there, which is kind of neat if you're not that inclined in electrical stuff. You can just put your wires in there, snap that shut. We're not going to use that today, but there is some double-sided tape and some screws that we may use. And then there is the actual unit, which is incredibly simple. It is just a positive and negative lead. There you guys can see a look at the display. Pretty basic. There's an alarm, there's a light, and then there's a unit number there just to kind of calibrate this device. A little bit of information there. Very, very simple. 2 screws on the back or double side stick it. And that will get mounted right here on this wall. And then we need to do longer leads here and get it plugged into my fuse panel. Other than that, I think this is going to be a pretty simple install. And yeah, I'm going to do it at head level so it'll get a good reading of carbon monoxide when I'm sleeping, because I want to read out the carbon monoxide while I'm asleep where my head is. That way I'll get a decent reading. If it is getting dangerous, I will be woken up by the alarm. All right, so this is an incredibly simple install. If you're not good with electrical stuff, this should still be very easy for you. It is incredibly easy. 2 leads, positive, negative. My van has a fuse panel built into my cabinetry here. So all I'm gonna do is lengthen the leads of the positive and negative. So I'm just gonna get my wire strippers and some electrical tape. And that's basically it. It doesn't get any more simpler than this, guys. So what I'm using is speaker wire because it's actually heavier gauge than the wires that are coming out of this unit. I use this a lot. It's very cheap and affordable, and as long as you understand the limits of that wire, you shouldn't have any problems. At the end of the day, copper wire is copper wire. It all comes down to the gauge of it. So I've got my positive and negative lead. I'm just going to pair that up, positive and negative, very simple, very quick. And pop open my cabinet here. We'll get that lifted up and attach it back into the fuse panel. Drill a hole in the back of this and drill 2 screws in there as well to get it mounted, because I don't want to do the double-sided sticky tape stuff. I don't find that stuff lasts very long, and going over bumps and stuff like that. I'd much rather just have it mounted to the wall. So, like I said, positive to positive, negative to negative. I'm just going to join these wires, get them taped up, and we'll open up the fuse panel, drill a hole, and get this thing mounted, and yeah, it should be a very simple install. All right, guys, I've got those wires taped up, and I'm just grabbing a drill bit right now because I do need to drill a small hole behind the unit where I'm going to be mounting it. That way I can pass the wire through the wall. And it's going to be fairly simple. It's just going to be 2 screws that hold it on there. I've already marked out where those holes need to be, and looks pretty good. So it's just a matter of snaking the wires through into the fuse panel. So let's get this hole drilled and get the screws in the wall and mount it to the wall. I should also mention, while I'm drilling this, behind my cabinet is where I store my cleaners. So I just want to take a peek just to make sure Yeah, so that would have drilled a hole right into my hand sanitizer and possibly into one of my leads to my solar panels. So I'm gonna be very careful with drilling this hole. Take a peek back here, see where we're going. Yeah, we're totally fine. Okay, so it came out right between two wires, not a problem there. We get the drill out of the way and we'll snake this wire through. I'm hoping that hole is large enough. I don't want to drill a hole crazy in size because it's just not needed. If I have to split these wires to get it to go through and then pull it through, I can. That's probably what I'll do right now. We'll snake one wire through and then do the other wire and then give it a good tug so it just comes all the way through. Just gotta wiggle this through there. Yeah, there's one. And like I was saying, guys, if you're not good at electrical stuff, this is as simple as it gets. If you do not know how to plug and play positive and negative, definitely do some research and learn, because if you're going to be doing van life, you need to have these skills for sure. You don't need to be a master electrician, but you should at least be able to install positive and negative lead and know how to fix it just in case something goes wrong on the road. So I'm gonna have to rip that through there with this ball of tape. I'll probably have to drill the hole a little bit bigger actually, guys, just because that tape's never gonna make it through. I could undo it and connect it on the rear. It's just simple just to drill a bigger hole. So I'll get this fitted and get it mounted. Okay guys, so after thinking just for a second, I realized that I'm not going to drill a larger hole. I am actually going to include this little quick clip here for just lining your wires up and clamp it down, and that's your connection. I'm going to utilize this because if I do need to take the panel off, instead of unraveling electrical tape and going through all that, I could just simply unsnap it and take it out and replace or do whatever I need to do. So what I'm going to do is screw in the two screws that I've already got marked, and those go on the back of the unit. It kind of hangs on there like that. I've already marked out where those need to go. I'm just going to put the screws in, pass the wires through the rear, quick clip it with this little quick clip, and then down in the fuse panel. There's the wrong size bit. This is just a day full of brain farts. I should mention I just installed an air conditioner. So I have been hard at work in the van for the last little while installing things. Oh, get in there. Okay, sink these in there. Not all the way, because this just going to click on those screw heads and slide in. Just got to get it mounted there. Okay, so that'll fit like that. Just got to get the wires through. All right, guys, so I've got the leads coming through the back here. I'm going to use this quick connector. It's very, very simple. You just plug one into one, lock it, do the other in the other hole next to it, and then line up on the other side your positive and negative leads. So here I'm using speaker wire. I just need to trim these leads because they're a little bit long to work with that. So I'm just going to twist the ends first, get them twisted, and then I cut them down to length, slide in there, and they'll be ready to go. So I'll use our wire cutters here. Snip that, snip that. Positive is going to be the white line on the wire. So I'm going to take positive into the positive terminal. Snap that shut, negative into the negative terminal, snap that shut, and there we have our connection right there. So if I do need to remove this wire for any reason, it's just a quick little unsnap, and then the faceplate on the other side can come off. So now I need to snake this wire in behind down to my fuse panel, which should be very simple. Just gonna move some cleaning supplies out of the way. Pass this wire down through right now, and then we'll go on the back side and catch it. All right, so as I'm doing this, I should probably explain why I'm explaining this. I know there are all kinds of people getting into van life, and all kinds of people feel that they're limited by their skill set, and I think that is a poor way to think about anything, because there are all kinds of things that I've done in my life where I've literally had no skill set. For example, YouTube. being a photographer, being a videographer. I've had no training at all. Oh man, that's in there. I got a fly swatter jammed in there. I've had no training in film or photography or any coaching in any kind of way, which might be quite shocking to some of you because I do a lot of cinematic filming on both of my YouTube channels. And I basically learned everything myself. So I don't like hearing when people say I can't do that or I don't know how to do that. To me, that's a perfect opportunity for you to learn. Mind you, there are some things you do need to understand the dangers before you start messing around with it, like electrical stuff. Generally, dealing with DC power, it's very, very safe. So depending on your setup and whatever you've got going on, generally it's very safe. So that plugged in there. I've got the wire pulled on the bottom. I'll get my awesome Febreze and dish soap back in there. And I think that's it. So we'll close that cabinet. I do have a clip that I use to keep it shut. I don't know. Oh, here it is. That there, just so it doesn't fall down when I'm driving. And then we can lift this up and tie it back with this string that I've got rigged up here on this eyelet so I can hands-free. And then I've got my wire pulled in over here. So all I need to do is literally take the positive and negative, put it on the positive and negative on my fuse panel, choose an appropriate fuse, put it in that slot, and that'll power up. And it will always be on because that is constant live power. All right, guys, so coming into my little cabinet area, it's very, very tight squeeze, but you guys can see my fuse panel is right back here. So I do need to remove this entire tray, which is kind of nonsense. I think I might be able to work around it, actually. If I can get the cover off. Yeah, I can get the cover off there. So you guys can see I started labeling some of these very briefly. There are a number of empty terminals, so I'm just going to choose an empty terminal and pop in a fuse and fire it up. And so for a fuse, I'm going to go with a 5 amp because it's a very small unit. It's not going to pull anything major. So let's put a 5. I got a 5 here. Yeah, I got a 5 amp fuse here, blue. I always recommend carrying extra fuses, guys. Not just for your electrical, but for your actual vehicle as well. Yeah, you overload a fuse and you're way out in the middle of nowheres, and you know, sometimes you can steal a fuse from a spot, you know, maybe lose your wiper blades and whatever. But sometimes it's just one of those situations where you just need a fuse. So always carry extra fuses. I'm going to snake this wire back in between everything so it's out of the way because I don't want it getting snagged on anything when I'm grabbing things out of here. It's never good when you have electrical that gets ripped out and then you get a live end kind of dangling all over the place. Wire cutters right behind you guys. So we're going to go live. I got a terminal there, so I'll cut my live wire there in negative. So I probably only need that much wire, save the rest for another project. And for this, unfortunately, I do not have the connectors to crimp on and pop a screw through it. So I'm just going to have to snake the wire around the screw like a pigtail. I don't recommend doing that, but for today, until I can get to the store and get one, that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to attach the positive and the negative without the fuse in there, obviously. Need a screwdriver and a Phillips bit. And like I said, this stuff is super simple, guys and girls out there. So if you're worried or, you know, you don't have any skill and you think you're going to mess it up, well, do it. Mess it up. Because then you're going to learn what not to do later in the future when you do need to mess with something and you're going to be afraid to mess with it. So the best way to learn is literally to mess it up. Just do it somewhere where you're not stranded in the middle of nowhere if it doesn't work. So get that out of the way. Sneak in this wire. And it's very, very important not to jump the wires across another circuit. I don't want to touch the positive on another one and accidentally bump the negative circuit and all that stuff. So that is probably the only thing to really worry about when you're doing this kind of stuff is you don't want to bump the next circuit. Now, luckily with this fuse panel, all the positives are on one side, so it makes it really difficult to honestly cause any problems by doing this. unless you have a crazy long wire that happens to arc and touch across a positive and negative, which would just be ridiculously long anyways. I mean, why would you do that? But getting this in here, it's a little finicky. I don't have a whole lot of room with my fingers. There's really nothing you guys can see either. It'd just be way too tough to get the camera in there. But I've got the positive lead wrapped around the screw, so I'm going to tighten that up. And that is on nice and tight. And now we'll move on to the negative and get it fired up. Okay guys, so that was a little finicky getting in there with the fingers and everything, but that looks really good. Pop in our 5-amp fuse and that should light up, which it just did. That beep tells us that it is on. And in fact, it's on, it's working. So right now I'm getting a readout of 23, 20, oh, it's a countdown, a readout. So it's counting down. I got to read the manual here because I have a feeling it's going to beep really loud at some particular point. I may have to rip the fuse out. So it's doing a countdown until it's going to start reading. And yeah, the instructions are pretty basic. 0. Okay, now we're getting a real-time readout. CO, parts per million, is 0. Battery, which it's wired in. There's a battery meter. It says it's full. The speaker is on, so it's very loud. There is a light, so I can have a lit up display just like everything else here, or I can shut it off. So that's actually quite handy. I like that a lot. Yeah, so pretty basic. Gas type propane and carbon monoxide detection range. There's all kinds of stuff here, guys. It is saying the, where am I at here? Basically, we're not dead, is what it's saying. So propane, okay, so the propane alarm is here, carbon monoxide alarm. So there's 2 separate alarms, which is awesome. Very, very cool. So it's a pretty awesome looking unit. It's very small. Backlit detection probe for propane, LCD detection probe for carbon monoxide, buzzer. Very basic, guys. So the way that you could test your carbon monoxide detector, there is a test button on it, obviously. But if you really want to know, does your carbon monoxide detector work? If it is a battery operated version, start your vehicle, go put it right in front of the exhaust. It should go off in a hurry. That's how you know it'll work. This one works because I hooked up to a 9-volt battery or a 18-volt battery to a drill, and it actually lit up. It went crazy. So yeah, I haven't read through the instructions a whole lot. They're basically all the same. Like you could turn the sound off, you could turn it on. These units are very, very generic. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on. So that's the install of that. Very basic. I wasn't going to film it, but I figured I might as well. Someone's going to ask me what it is. I could bounce you guys back to this video. And, you know, you're hanging out with me. Why not? So there are a couple other additions to the van that I did. I'll probably make a separate video and show that. A couple little hacks and neat little things here. I did install an air conditioner as well. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Just a little bit of safety precaution here. I will mention the reason why I was adamant on putting it where my head level is, where I'm sleeping. Carbon monoxide is heavier than air, so it actually sinks. So if you do have a carbon monoxide detector and you place it down low, it will get a really good reading because carbon monoxide sinks down low and it will go off lower. So if I'm sleeping, my head level is here and I place this unit way up here, if there is a problem, I would likely be dead before this alarm would go off up here. Likely, depending on the situation. But you always want your carbon monoxide detector placed where your head is going to be on the same level. This does read propane gas. So yeah, it does read propane gas as well. And I keep my propane on this side. So if there is any fumes, again, it will pick up on that. Now propane leaking is heavier than air again. So it likes to sink down to the lowest area. So having a propane monitor realistically should be down low, but I placed it here, my sitting, my laying area, my height, just so I know where my living, my habitational zone is, that this is going to read. So it's going to do its thing. Right now it's reading 00 on everything, which is good. I will most likely get some propane and, you know, give a little squirt in there, see what it does at some point in time. I'll let you guys know how that works. But right now, Boomer's in here. I don't want that beep going off because he will go nuts. So that is the carbon monoxide and propane gas detector. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, drop it down in the comment section. And peace out. I'll catch you in the next video.